Hello and welcome to another episode of Journey to a Dream with me, Beth Espy. This podcast is brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance, and you can find out more about them by visiting their website. It's kawasaki-insurance.co.uk. So what can I tell you about today's guest? Well, he's had some great success on the roads here on the Isle of Man, very much comes from a racing family, and he's also a big fan of Amelia, as we'll hear a little bit later. Let's meet him now.
Hello, I'm Jack Hunter. I've been racing since 2012. I've done the roads like the Southern and the Scarborough, Manx Grand Prix, the classic TT and the TT. I still dabble now, but only at Derby, so I've kind of gone from where it's a full-time sort of hobby, and now I'm kind of doing it as more of a Sunday fun kind of thing, so it's been good, but yeah.
And at Derby, actually, you were instrumental, I think, in bringing one of the classes there. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, that was it. So when I was looking at other bikes, friends rode in England, they had these CB 500s, and there was a big sort of class for them, and I was just thinking that would be a perfect class for Derby, because it is really difficult now that racing's a lot more expensive than it was. I've got friends and my brother that want to do it but just couldn't afford it really, so I was sort of seeing this as a good chance to get people that want to race to get into it. I did a round in England at Cadwell Park and had a great time. It was really well run, the rules were very good, the whole format worked well, so I just pitched that idea to Linda and Neil and everyone at the committee, and then now we've got a class for it, so it's been great.
And there's something about this class, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I know anything about bikes apart from they've got two wheels, most of them, but there's something about this class I think which makes them really good for newcomers.
Yeah, so I think what it's quite strict on is that the actual bikes are very, very basic compared to other bikes out there, and they are quite strict in what you can and can't do. So the whole point of it is to be sort of cheap and affordable. So, for example, the tyres are controlled to one make, what you can and can't do to your bike's controlled. So yeah, it just keeps the cost down dramatically, really, which is good. Obviously, if you crash your bike, you got to pay for it. But there's even when you crash them, to be fair, they're quite easy to repair. So the whole point is that it's just it's one of the easier bikes to maintain and to run. There's obviously stuff to do, as with anything, but then compared to the bikes I've ridden in the past, like classic bikes, which is just a nightmare. So these are much more fun because you can focus more on the riding rather than having to look after the bike all the time. So,
Jack, we were just talking before we started recording this about the fact that, very often racing does run in the family, and you were trying to work out just how many people in your family were involved in bikes in some way, and it seems like pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I know. I was saying literally it was my nan's had a go, my mum's had a go at the endurance at Derby. I think she was telling me a story that when her and Dad were doing endurance together, Dad put Mum in the hard class so he'd get a better result. I haven't heard the full story, but anyway, so Mum's had to go on track, and obviously my dad's well known for it.
Your dad being Jim Hunter.
That's it, Jim. Yeah. And my uncle, who's John Barton, he's been doing the CT for donkey's years and still involved now. And now my younger brother races, and my uncle Jeff, he's done racing back in the past. So it's I think a lot of people in my family have raced, but then even so, a lot of people in my family have been involved in motorbikes because my grandparents are telling me, like, my great granddad was a test rider for BSA back in the day. My other great granddad was a toolmaker at the Velocet, and then obviously even the people in my family that weren't racing, they were still involved in motorcycles in some way. So it's I was saying to my wife when I met her, luckily she's got into it because otherwise there's no escape.
And we should say, you have a very young daughter, won't be on the radar yet.
Yeah.
I mean, as a father now, what do you think about the possibility of maybe her being interested in...
Oh, it's hard really, because I remember the first time I was worried about other people riding bikes was when because I live in Ramsey, and my brother rode up to sort of see us, and he come have a cup of tea and that. When he went home, he got on his bike, and I was, careful, and I kind of it was the first time I felt about someone else is on a bike now, and it could get hurt. Obviously he was only going home, but I never felt that way before. Now when even my friends ride bikes, you're kind of concerned for them, and especially I think about my daughter. I wanted to have fun, but then it's hard because I can't imagine her putting herself in a dangerous situation, because now as a parent, obviously you'll never want that. But equally, if I think back to how much fun racing and motorbikes have brought me, and it'd be hard to deny her of that. But again, it's like, I'll never push her into it. I'll just, if she wants to give it a go, then she can. But then it's probably, my wife's a really talented hockey player, so it's probably quite likely that she'll go down that route.
You've got your fingers crossed there.
Yeah, but then...
Although, to be fair, hockey can be pretty brutal as well,
of course,
can't it? Just thinking about you then, as I say, sort of, I can't imagine that there were many times where you didn't remember having a bike at some point in your younger years. At what point did you think that you actually wanted to take it a little bit more seriously, and what reaction did your mum and dad both have at that point?
It's weird, because I think as a young child, I remember my brother actually did the first bit of racing with in motocross, but I was always quite a shy child, I think. I like riding bikes for fun in fields, because my dad got me that was a bit of a funny story, because he got my brother a really smart KTM 50, and then I got this from a scrap heap, banging old Kawasaki thing.
But you've forgotten it now, though, it's fine.
Yeah, but I'll forgive him. But then it was quite nice, actually, to be fair. That inspired my sort of passion for fixing bikes, so that was quite nice. But then I'd only ever rode bikes socially, and it wasn't until we went to America one time, because we used to homestay and we had these Americans come over and stay with us, and then every now and again we'd go and see them. And Butch, he was called, he was a proper like classic American kind of guy, guns and bikes, and he had this trials bike and some land, and I would ride around the field, I wouldn't really push myself, and he was like no, and he was the first person to force me to get out of my comfort zone on a bike, and then I really enjoyed it. And then when we came home from America, Mum got me a trials bike for Christmas, and then I remember my first competition was like, I was really, really nervous, but then a nice guy, I think he works at Station Garage, he sort of seen that I was a young lad, no idea what I was doing, I didn't have the right gear or anything, and then he sort of said, I'll come around the trials and I'll do it with me today. And then I absolutely loved that, and then that was kind of, I like competing now. And then I think when I got a road bike and had to go to a track day, then competing then was just a natural progression, really. So when I was younger, I wasn't competitive, I was quite shy, but then it just kind of came from there, really.
And repeatedly on this podcast, we talk about the importance of having support around you. If you decide this is something you want to explore, you need to go off island, obviously, and whatever, and it's really important to have people who support you, not just financially but emotionally as well.
Especially nowadays with the costs, it would be impossible to do it by yourself, unless you had like a seriously good job. People, for me, when I first did a track day, there was a guy called John Barton who races, or used to when I was doing it. He had some event on at a pub to sort of raise awareness for his team, and then my dad took me to that, and then this guy rode the same bike that I had on the road, so I soon said, I've got that bike, I could do this. And then he sort of took me under his wing and helped me out my first season, which was amazing. And then the second year when I went road racing, he had done the circuits across, so he knew the people, so it was quite nice to go away with someone that could take care of all that kind of thing. Because I think when you go away, if you went all by yourself, you've got to book your boat, drive there, which before Google Maps is hard, then you got to find your place, then you got to meet a whole new committee and club people, work out a sign on where scrutineering is, work out what the track is, work out what's what. Whereas to go away with someone that knows exactly what they're doing means you can just focus on the riding then. I got a lot to thank for him, and he helped me out with the Grand Prix as well for many years, really. I had a lot of fun. And then when I did some training, obviously Dad was very useful. We walked a lot of the course, in fact, in certain areas. And then my uncle was really good on certain bits of the course. So it's good because in my family there's so much support to give, not just financially, but, with knowledge, really. So, I was lucky in that situation that I had endless amounts of people that could help out, really. So it's
so important, isn't it? Because this sport is all-consuming. If you are remotely interested in it, it seems to just take over your life.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think that's why I enjoy these CVs now, because it's nice to keep your finger in, but it's not fully, like you said, it's not your whole life. Whereas I think when I was younger, it was. But I think it's different then, because when you're young, spare time is just endless. I worked really hard to get money for my bikes, but equally then you got all this time at home to work on them. Whereas I find now that you've got may got a bit more money coming in, but time is an impossible thing. So it's like a different balance. But then when I was young, it was all consuming. But then I think it's good because I sort of said this argument to Mum, because obviously she wasn't a massive fan of me doing not so much racing, but road racing. But then I did say, like, Mum, I've got no money to go out and get drunk, doing the I shouldn't be doing, because most of my fun's going to into the bikes, really. So it kind of keeps you on the straight and narrow, because you got this one goal. I enjoy my job, and I did, but then my main goal of my job was to get money for the bikes. So I think it keeps you. There's an incentive to work hard, to be careful with what you do, because you want to achieve this goal, really. So, and
you can understand your mum being a little bit apprehensive, but I mean, presumably she ultimately supported you.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, Mum and Dad were both the same. They sort of said their piece, and then that was it. Then I remember it was hard when I said to Mum, "I'm going to do it was the post TT, my first road race." I could see she wasn't too happy about it, but then equally, she sort of kept that to herself, and then it's just focused of, like, what can we do to help? And it's quite nice, because the post-TT, obviously being at the end of TT, we had some homestay people, and then the night before we were all kind of like doing my number boards and getting the bike ready, and that was quite nice. And it was nice to see Mum sort of, obviously she was hiding her feelings, but she was chipping in. It was quite nice, because the worst thing you want is to go out on your bike and then your mum's in tears because she's nervous, because that makes you feel bad. And it's like, I think she had those feelings, but she was very good at disguising it, really. So she was always being very supportive. As a father now, I think, bloody hell, I feel bad for her, because you think, what am I put her through? Yeah, it's the way it was.
And having done, like, down on the Balaam course, the MGP and the TT, and now, as you say, you sort of do it more for fun.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate that there'll ever be a point where you think, oh, I really want to do it competitively again?
I don't know, really. I think to me, I was never really interested in riding much bigger bikes, because, for example, when I did my last TT in 2016, my uncle was saying, have you ever thought about getting a super stock bike, which is kind of like, or a 600, which would be the next progression? And I just thought straight away, no, like that a bike that fast just doesn't even entertain me. So you're thinking then, well, I've reached as far as I can get, really, on the Supertwin. It's costing a fortune. I feel I've done what I wanted to do now. So I never really had an inkling to go down any bikes or any quicker, really. Grandad offered me a 750 Kawasaki, which is a quick bike, but then I just wasn't really that interested. So I think that kind of made me not want to go any further. And then when the classic bikes came around, that was like another opening for, I've never done this before, and this is kind of like a new beginning of, like, getting a bike and seeing how it works and getting up to speed with it. And so that was quite nice. But then I must admit, the last year of classic racing was so stressful. And I remember thinking on the last lap of the 2019 Classic TT, I've just thought, if this bike finishes, then I'm done now. Because I think the weeks leading up to it was just so stressful, and the bike was being a nightmare. Everything went wrong, and I just kept thinking, like, if this bike gets round now, I can feel like I've signed it off now. And then I've just have so much fun riding at Derby now that I don't really have any inkling to want to go back on the roads anymore. I just think that chapter's done, and you sort of, it's weird, in some ways you feel like you've not escaped, but you've got out of it. You've got what you wanted to get out of it, and you can do other stuff now in life. But then it is hard, because I think if I don't do any racing, you get like an itch you can't scratch, and it's like you end up finding you ride to work, you go too quick or something, and you think, like, if I don't, it's good for me to have that experience on some sort of track where you can ride a bike with, because I think although I'm not a mad person, you can. It's nice to go out on track and get that kind of, get that adrenaline fix, really. And for me, I get that at the track now. I think if I got nothing out of riding at Derby on my CB, then I would probably want to go back to the roads, because you're kind of searching for that feeling. But then for me, I enjoy it so much now that that's okay for me now. So, and I think, to be fair, looking at the bikes that I used to ride aren't in the. They're in the TT now, but they moved on so much, and I think riders and the bikes have moved on so much that if I ever went back, I'd be so lost that I wouldn't know where to start. And I think as well, it's hard, because when you're on form and you're on your game and you set like your PBs and your lap times, and they always be your target, and it's really annoying to go back and then not do as well as you want to. That's hard, because even though you might have enjoyed it, that's that thing in the back of your head saying, you didn't go quite as quick as you did 3 years ago. So I think that's why going back to the roads now would probably frustrate me more than I would enjoy it, really. So
that's great, though, I think, that you've got to that point, because it's something that many racers don't ever feel. So to think, I've done that. When
I was like 22 and I'd done my first road race and I was really enjoying it, and you think, I'll never ever be able to stop this because I had such a good time. I was racing as much as I possibly could. I was doing all the Scarboroughs, pre-TT Classic, post-TT, the Grand Prix, the TT. I was just loving it. You can never see yourself retiring, but then I think obviously you go through life, and I've had my daughter, I met my wife, and you got a good job, and you settle down. Then suddenly, like, things come into picture more. But then back when I was young, you just can never see an end to it, really. But I think there's a lot of people, like, fair play to them, like, people still race because they enjoy it. And I think racing has always been, well, I think any kind of sport, it's always been a fine balance of the enjoyment you get out of it versus the money and the hassle. And I think when the money and the hassle start to outweigh the enjoyment, then it's, well, what's the point? But then I think if some people love it so much that they can keep doing it, then fair play to them. There's no dig on people. It's just the fact that for me personally, I felt like I'd done what I wanted to do. So
you mentioned 2019, which sounded like it was a difficult year in the run-up and also sort of the racing as well.
Yeah.
I think we should say at this point, you were actually only a couple of years since you'd had a fairly major incident, that wasn't race-related.
No, it's just I tried living in England for a bit. I think it's one of those things I always thought, I wonder what it's like to live across, and I gave it a go, and I had this massive crash going to work, so I just think that for me put a bit of a downer on it. But then
you
also,
on a bike?
Yeah, just on a bike. Yeah, I think really I was a bit naive because I thought I lived about an hour away from work, but I thought I'd be alright. I love riding bikes, so I'd be fine. But then in the kind of bleak weather and the roads are so busy, it just wasn't that nice. And then in the end, I had this crash, which nearly finished me off. But it was hard because I made so many good friends in my short time down there. So some bits of it were really nice living away, but then some bits weren't. And then, this accident, when I had it, I just thought I left my job on good terms in the Isle of Man. So when I thought about going back home again, I rang my boss up and he said, there's a job for you if you want it. Great. So I came back home. But then it's quite weird because all the crash was obviously a bad thing. When I came home, got my job back, a job in the tool room, which is what I do now, opened up. And then
this is at Swage Lock.
Swage Lock, sorry, yeah. And then I met my wife. My in-laws are lovely. Her siblings and so my brothers and sister-in-laws are amazing. So it's like the whole thing started to work quite well for me. And it's like, although that crash was bad, in some ways it did set me up quite well for where I am now, really. So probably a bad way of doing things, but it was.
But it's a great way of looking at it. That's a great way of looking at it.
You've got to take the positive, really.
Absolutely. And how was your recovery, sort of physically and emotionally?
Physically, it wasn't too bad. I think I was quite young at the time. Was it 25, 26, I think? But then you're lucky then because your body heals reasonably quick. So I was in the hospital for about a month, and I was just so lucky because it was no fog that day, because a lot of the days being foggy. The air med picked me up and took me straight to London, which is a top hospital, and that was so my recovery. They got me to hospital quite quick and operated quite quick, so that I could make quite a good recovery. And apart from a few arm complaints, it wasn't that bad really. I was like amazed, proper lucky really. So I got so much to thank for. Mum took me back to see the I think it was the Kent and Sussex air ambulance, and it was amazing because we went on holiday in England, and Mum said we're going to pop in. And as I got there, just by chance, the same paramedic and pilot that were on duty were there, so I could say hello, and that was amazing to meet them and see the helicopter. So yeah, they do an amazing job. But then I was very lucky really. But recovery wise, I'm pretty good. It's I think the only problem I did have was that they had to take out my spleen, which is, I'm not a doctor really, but it's something to do with the immune system. I remember the 2018 Grand Prix I had to pull out because I just started getting really bad eye infections, which I don't know if that was somehow related to this not having a spleen. But it was kind of like I was so bad from it that I just couldn't see well enough, and I said I can't, it's too dangerous to ride now. But then I remember in 2019 it still wasn't quite sorted out, and then sure enough I got a really bad eye infection just before the Grand Prix. Like, bloody hell, this whole year has been a nightmare. But luckily I was getting better. But I remember having to plead with the doctor because I said, look, I know I look really bad, like I look like I've been out, on a heavy session, because I was so. But I said I can see fine, so he did all the tests on me, and I got my okay to race. But then I've sorted that out now since then. But that was the only thing for my crash that probably had affected me, because obviously if you can't see very well, it's not great for riding bikes. But
no, it's not brilliant.
yeah.
We've mentioned your dad, Jim Hunter, who has been a guest on the podcast before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a difficult question for you to answer this, but I
yeah.
wonder what it's like being a son of Jim Hunter, and when you go around in those biking circles, I guess everybody knows who you are. Were you just Jim's son, or did you feel that you were
I remember Mum always used, he's your own man, he's like Jim. But to be fair to Dad, he's done a lot for the sport, and obviously he's well known, and it, in some ways, especially racing over here, it was almost like you can feel like you meet someone and my dad's Jim Hunter and I'll buy me, and it's like, and it's kind of like you can get an in quickly, you can settle down because you feel like people know who you are, or who my dad is, and luckily Dad's quite well liked, so there's been no issues. That was really useful to me, and obviously he's got a lot of experience around here, which has been great. But it's equally, he's a very busy man, so it's like I didn't want to take him away from his duties, and obviously he didn't want to distract me from mine, so it was always a balancing act. But it was quite weird going to Scarborough, because when I went to Scarborough, it was the first time that no one really knew my dad over there at that club, so it was sort of nice in some ways to be your own person in your own right. There's not many people that don't know him. So, yeah.
You mentioned your brother, I think it's Juan, isn't it?
Juan,
who races as well. I mean, how competitive were you two?
Me and Juan are really competitive, and it's really annoying now because he's bloody fast. It's weird because being the big brother, I'm 4 years older than him. You always have like a competitive edge. So like when you play on your PlayStation, or you do, I don't know, any kind of thing when you're only two young brothers, you're always better because you're older. Whereas now he's catching up now, and like I think he's an amazing skier. He's fast on a bike. He's pretty fast on a go-kart. So but it's funny because I'm going to give the parish another go this year, and my brother's entered it as well. So like it seems like everything I do, he's always at my heels. But he's a really good rider, to be fair. So
how far are you hoping to get in the parish?
I think last time I did to Andreas, my brother got to Lozère before, so I really want to get to Lozère at least. But then I know that because my stepdad will be supporting us, I'll probably be asking, where's Juan? So touch wood, I can get as far as him. But no, we've always been really competitive. But equally, it's been great because we didn't have too much in common as brothers when we got to sort of teenage years. Like Juan's really big into drum and bass, and I'm more kind of Dire Straits and Roxy music, so it's not much crossover there. But anyway, when he got into bikes and then got a race bike, that was my thing, because I'd stopped for a year and I thought, I want to be on track with Juan at some point, and I thought if I miss this opportunity, I might not come again. So when Juan got a CB, I got a CB, and then there's been a few times on track together, and it's just been awesome, and it's like that's made me love getting back into it, really, And I think because a guy called Paul Callow got the first CB. But at that time, the class wasn't really going. But then my brother got a bike, and then his friend bought a bike, and then my brother's other friend bought a bike, and then his friend got one because he got one, and then Matthew, the jammy, he won a bike in a raffle because he's always winning raffles. And then before you know it, there's quite a good clique, really, of riders, and I think that's good at racing, because sometimes with racing that it takes someone to spark it off, and then once it's going, then quite a good circle arises. And then 2 years ago we went to Anglesey together, and it was just really good because it was like there was four of us. Jamie had bought a big truck to get the bikes in. It was like, to me, it was like reliving the youth of me being back at 21 again, going racing originally, because it was that kind of like getting on a boat with your friends, and it was kind of that was really fun. That was to kind of go back. I think when you start racing, you want to get better and better and be cooler, and you want to get like a nice awning, you want to get cool toolboxes. I remember I was obsessed with camping the paddock. Like I just loved it. Like I'd be up there for 2.5 weeks. I had like literally everything, a nice bed, I bought a TV, I bought a cooker, I bought everything, because I just loved that paddock life. But I think now I'm kind of simplifying that. I just want to go back to basics, really, because I just want an easy life, really.
And you mentioned the parish. Obviously we'll be keeping an eye and seeing who gets where when. Yeah. But you mentioned your stepdad supporting you for the parish. Is he into bikes as well? Has he been?
Michael's kind of my mum and my stepdad, really, being like the unsung heroes of my racing, because he isn't massive into bike. He's on a track day. It wasn't his cup of tea, really. He's more kind of poodles around on old bikes. But then he has just done so much for my racing, and like when you think about it, you think, but I couldn't have done that without him, really. And to have a small family, because like when I originally bought my race bike, I remember I got it on eBay. I was thinking, I don't have to pay for it. I bought this bike, I don't have to pay for it. You know, Grandad said, actually, I'll get the bike for you, and then you can look after it from then. But then I thought, this is amazing. Like, I'm so lucky. But then actually getting the bike was the cheap bit. The next bit was what cost a fortune. I remember me and my friend Chris at the time, we rode my road bike to Hull, picked up my race bike at the time, which was just a road bike. We rode both bikes back together, and then got the bike back to my stepdad's garage. And then I felt sorry for him because I always wanted a good workspace to work in, and the garage was quite full of other stuff. But my stepdad had got a nice shed that was just for his gardening tools. So, because he used to do a lot of marshalling, I think one TT, when he was out marshalling, me and my friend moved his gardening tools out the shed, and then moved my bikes in. But to be fair, like, I felt it's quite naughty, really. But then he could see that was going to help me out racing, so he wasn't bothered by it. And then you know, the amount of interest-free loans that my mum and stepdad gave me for things, and things like I've always liked to be quite independent, but I was never good at asking for help, but they were quite good at like knowing when I was struggling, and they kind of, so for example, we didn't even have a van, so we had an old trailer, or I had to rely on other friends for lift, which was a bit of a pain. But then mum was like, I bought a van for us to go like travelling in, or, you know, and I'm like, you know, it's going to be to help me out. But then so I was, you know, extremely grateful for that, because without that I wouldn't have been able to do it. Yeah, there's so many things, I can't name them all really, but there's so much help they've given me over the years that I couldn't have done it without them, really. So it's kind of like they're like the unsung heroes, really, of my time racing, because, you know, I couldn't have done it without them. So.
That's so
yeah,
lovely.
so I just want to thank them, really, because it's important. But
so, Jack, if you have to sort of look back at your racing career, what would you say is your proudest moment?
I think my best year, I think, was 2016. My Southern result was good. I was happy with the TT. It's weird. I think it was when maybe my results weren't as good as other years, but the people that I was racing against were a lot better, and my lap times a lot better. And I think for me, I've never really done that well on the standings, but I always kind of like, say for example, if I've come second in a class that wasn't that well contested, but I've come fourth in a class that was, and there was a really tough race to fight, then I'd much rather, that's my more, I think of that race really. Like in the Grand Prix, I think I was 6th in Newcomers, but then I was 14th or 16th in the main race, which to me like meant a lot more, because that was like my best lap time, my best result against good riders, you know, and that kind of meant more. But I think 2016 was the year when all my lap times are like personal bests, and you just felt like me and the bikes had gelled now, and like it's just a great time. And that's why I think it's sometimes hard to go back, because you remember that year being like the pinnacle of like, I was quickest here, you know, I've set my best time here, got best result here, you know, and you always think that's my best year, really. Yeah, like 2016 was the first time I raced the classic bike, and that was a good year, because 2019 the classic bike was a nightmare. Everything was against me. Luck wasn't in my favour at all. But then when we got this bike in 2016, my granddad was saying, I don't think we should ride it, because we've only just got it, like it's literally the Grand Prix in 2 months' time. We need time to get used to the bike. But I had already put an entry in, because I was like, I'm doing this, because I was so excited. But then we got time to get the bike sort of ready. I must thank actually my teacher from college, Trevor. He's probably in his 60s now. I don't even know how old he is actually. But then he's been like a really random friend that I never thought I'd make, because he was my maths teacher at college. And there's one time when my transponder ran out of battery. I knew he lived in Derby, so I walked around Derby, because I didn't know where he lived, but I just knew he had loads of cars, and it was just like random house with loads of cars. And that's got to be Trev's house. I knocked on the door, and I was like, oh, sir, Trev, you know, can I charge a transponder? He's like, oh yeah, of course. So we sort of met him again, because I haven't seen him for a few years since college. And then the next day he came down just to help out, and then since then he's been like a heavy race, because especially with the old bikes, he had these old bikes when he was a kid, so he knows all about them. So that was really good. But I remember, we got this classic bike, he helped me get it going, and that year in the race, I didn't get a great start position, because the qualifying was quite bad, because we didn't really know the bike. Anyway, we got up to speed with it, and even like we only had a small fuel tank, and the race, if it was a 3 lap race, you could do a full race on one tank. But if you had a big tank, which you didn't have, but then the guy next to me in the paddock, I felt quite bad, but it's quite cheeky, but he was happy. But he broke down midweek, and I knew he had a big fuel tank which would fit my bike, so I sort of went round and I was like, I'm really sorry about you, he's like, oh yeah, this you sort of don't suppose borrow
really
your tank.
sorry, but
yeah. So he's oh no, of course. I think he was just happy to see
Yeah.
some success of his time over there. So anyway, he gave me the fuel tank, and then suddenly this race, just like, I started to gel with the bike. It's really satisfying because I got a bad position. I was catching people all the time, so every time you come around a corner, you see the next person, and catch them and overtake them, and then obviously I had the big fuel tank, so we could get through the whole race. But actually, the bike was almost going to break down when we came in to finish the race. It was almost going to stop, but then luckily we had finished the race and ended up getting a replica, and that was just a great year. But that's one of these years where, like, luck's on your side for some reason. It's like, for some reason, things just fall into place, and it was a great time. But then the next few years just weren't the same. But I think that's so much racing up that sometimes you just get a great year, and sometimes you don't. I think when my she wasn't my wife at the time, but when she came to the first race at the Grand Prix, she obviously never seen any really bikes before, so it was quite a shock to her. The first, I think it was 3 or maybe even 4 nights, practice was cancelled, so she came up from work. Oh, hello. All right, I'm going to scrutineering. So we go to scrutineering, in a queue for an hour, get your bike for scrutineering, you go into the holding area, you get your bike ready, tyre one was on or not if you're not, and then you're ready. And then rain, cancel. Right, okay, so all back down. And it's like Tuesday, same thing, through scrutineering, paddock, cancel because there was a RTC. Next day, it might have been rain, and I did say to we do actually get out sometimes. But it was like one of those years where it's just one of them. One of my really good friends, Nick Anderson, he helped him in the TT in 2018, and it was just an amazing year. Like, the 2 weeks were so good, like so sunny, and it was just such a nice time. And he rode really well. He did his 120 mile an hour lap, and it was just a great time. But it's like, sometimes over here you can have the best time, sometimes you can have the worst time. It's just one of them. I always said to friends, like, especially road racing, it's like 90% hassle and frustration, but then it's that one bit that makes it worth it, that kind of keeps coming back. But then you got to be prepared for a lot of delays, heartache, cancel. It's just, it's a funny old sport, really, but it's the way it is.
And as we're talking, Jack, we're probably just about a month away from TT 2025. What do you do during those 2 weeks? How involved are you?
It's nice now because I must mention my friend, so Nick Anderson, I actually met him at Cadwell once. I didn't actually know him at the time, but we ended up being on track really close together and having quite good racing. And it was at Scarborough. I thought, I recognise you. And he's, oh yeah, I was at Cadwell. And I put, it's you look that guy that I was always dicing with. And then, so he was at Scarborough, and then he was on my Newcomers year. So we ended up becoming really good mates. And he was doing the TT in 2018, and then he's doing some racing since. I was at Cadwell the other week because he was riding a bike there, so I went to see him. But he's wound down a bit on the roads. It's hard for him because he was really talented, so for him, I think he had more to give, but it's just situations he wasn't certain about racing because of his children. He was a very good rider, but then we had so much fun together over the years, and then that leads me on to, it was hard because 2015 we met Gary Vines, who was I think he won his Newcomers race, and he was a top 250 rider. But then I've lost friends throughout racing, but then Gary was like a real close friend, or someone that you really know. And then I think it's hard because you see things differently then when it's someone you know really well. It changes your mood a bit on the road racing. So I find that I still watch it. I love watching it. I love. I don't get involved as much anymore, but I do really enjoy. Like, sometimes Nick comes over for the Grand Prix or the TT, and then we'll just watch and just have some beers on the hedge, and our kids play in the fields, and it's quite nice to have similar age children together and just make new memories on that side, on the other side of the fence, really.
Have you ever done any marshalling or anything like that?
No, I've helped out before at Derby, and I've helped out at Balagary before, but I've never done marshalling before. I think because I've had such a manic time racing, I just want to wind down a bit. Maybe in a few years' time I might get involved with that kind of thing. But then I think, to be fair, I'm sure, as you know, like, children just take so much time off. So it's like, just, if I get the chance to sit on the fence and watch some bikes with Amelia, I love that. But yeah, it's hard because, especially when we lost Gary, that was another thing for me. If I don't want to go back to this now, because it's the first person that you really know that that you've lost. But then we went to Cadwell last weekend because I was helping Nick out there because he was riding Gary's bike, and that was amazing to see his bike out again on track, and Nick rode really well, so it was kind of that was really good to see. But yeah, from that point of view, I do like being on this side of the fence now and just enjoying it really, and then get to watch it.
So for anybody who is on the other side and maybe is preparing for their debut, this TT, this MGP, what would be the best piece of advice you could give them?
I think because I've done a bit of coaching in the past and just helped Dad out. Well, like I said before, you've got to be prepared for it's going to be hard. There's going to be times where the chips are down, the weather's bad, the bike's not running right, so you've got to be prepared for that. Just accept it's going to happen, so you know it. And also you've got to, it's crazy how much strain the course puts for the bikes, so things you never thought would fail probably will. So you've got to make sure that your bike's prepared well, and everything that could go wrong is being prevented, like, you know, lock wire and your lock nuts, your lock tights, just everything is secured down properly. One of the best bits of newcomers training I've probably done was with a lad called Nuno Catano, who is a Portuguese rider, and he was a newcomers coach when I was doing it, but he'd only been racing for 2 years, but because he was a good newcomer, he could give us a view of the track as a newcomer's point of view, because sometimes there's so much information that you get about bombarded, whereas he was like, this bit here is like really important, this bit here is really dangerous, this bit here is you can make a lot of time up by this one thing, so it's kind of like good to learn the basics. So when I was coaching, I was trying to teach him a point of view of a newcomer really, or a person that's like, these are the key bits that you need to know. But yeah, my advice would just be to be prepared for a weird week, and then make sure your bike's prepared properly really. I do think the newcomers weekends are really good. When my dad was saying, like, back in his day, it was just going around the course, you know, it's insane really. Like, I can't comprehend what they used to do back then. It's nuts, you know, like early morning practice in the fog and all sorts of stuff. It's different, but then it's nice now that newcomers get a chance to come over properly and see the course and learn the key bits really, because I think it's that thing of once you can ride at the course safely, then you can focus on, you know, working at your speed then really. But I think the whole thing is just being safe and smooth really, you know, and then doing your homework.
And we're sort of going right back to the beginning, because we were talking about Andreas right at the start of this, and having that sort of organisation which is really growing year on year, and having that for homegrown talent over here is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's great to see clubs so busy again. I've been with them probably for more than 12 years now, so it's nice to see. There's been ups and downs, but now it's like really on the up. It's nice to see new riders coming through, but I find it's like at work when I train apprentices, it's funny seeing kids that are born post 2000, you know, it's like, and you got riders that are born in, like, they got riders that are born when I bought my road bike, for example, and they were born in like 2004, now they're racing, you know, and it's like to see them, you know, do really well. Now, like, for example, Will Corkill in our kind of CB group, he's the same age as my middle sister. He's only, 20-something, but he's come on leaps and bounds. You feel quite proud in some ways that you see these young riders, you know, progress through the stages. But it's like, there's always that thing of, some people would say, what's the point in Derby? You know, we've got enough riders at the TT. But it's like, you need that feedstock, and you know, you need somewhere for riders to get into it really, you know. It's like, if you got rid of that, eventually the road racing would wind down because there wouldn't be enough people in it. But it's just I think the other thing I was thinking is, for me, racing bikes gave me a reason not to go down any bad routes as a child, but also it's good to have, like, I think a lot of kids nowadays are stuck in on their phones, or they're not really in touch with live as much anymore. But then when you're racing, you've got to be, because you've got to you've got things to do, you've got so much to do, so it's nice to get out. And I think, like, having a circuit there is a great thing for any youth really, you know. And then people like me, it's like, it's good for children, it's good for me that just want something to do. And it's like, I think people who want to ride bikes fast will do it some way, and it's better to have a circuit to do it than do it on the roads really. So I think Derby's really key for that. But it's just amazing seeing, like, the club, Lee Bartram, revamping the kind of the social media presence and the marketing, and then, like, seeing the buildings painted up properly. It's just like a proper smart setup now really. It's amazing. So it's really come on quite a lot over the years, which is great to see, you know. So. Well,
Jack, it has been brilliant talking to you. I have one final question, it's just to ask you if you'll be continuing your fantastic support of the MGP Supporters Club by buying all your Christmas presents from the Sulby Glen Melia.
Oh, yeah, blimey, yeah, that's another story. Yeah. I think I was well known there. I think I couldn't go this year because, when I was the year before, when my baby was due, it's literally due, she was due around the same sort of time, but then God, I used to buy so much stuff there. Yeah, it was a great night. It's a shame that it doesn't happen anymore, but then, that was... Such good fun. I bought so much stuff. I remember buying. I bought boxes and boxes of old programmes. I thought, I'm never going to find time to read these or display them. But then when I built my workshop in my garage, I got some offcuts of like this see-through plastic from work. So I've put all these old programmes underneath the workbench and then sealed them up. So my workbench is all kind of made up of these old programmes now, which has been quite cool.
Oh, that's ace.
Yeah, but it's that was a fun night. Yeah, really good. But it's nice. I think in the motorcycling world, there's just so many nice people involved in it. Like, say, my job in England, I've met some great people there. Every time you go to a race meeting, but before you know it, you can soon strike up great friendships and conversations because the motorcycling sort of community is so connected, really, which is great. So. Well,
Jack, thank you so much for coming in, and fingers crossed that you can find a hedge and watch some racing of TT.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Jack Hunter. So if you are holding Amelia and you see him coming your way, you're going to be very, very pleased, I'll tell you. Great to talk to Jack, and he had some great advice there as well for anybody who may be just starting out on this journey towards road racing. And look forward to seeing him sitting on the hedges, hopefully enjoying a beer in the sunshine, because that's what we've got our fingers crossed for. If you would like to be part of the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me. It's bethespy@manxradio.com. This podcast is brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance. You can find out more about them by visiting their website. It's kawasaki-insurance.co.uk. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.